How's it going, everybody? This is Radishhead, and welcome back to another episode of Upland Analysis. I want to give a quick apology to everybody for basically dropping off the face of the earth for the past month. There's definitely a lot that has happened in Upland over the past few weeks, but most importantly, we've recently had the announcement of Dallas and Arlington, which are both releasing as like a dual city release on the 29th of September, which is just a few days away as of the time of recording. So of course I want to let you know the research that I've done on these cities and give some indication as to where might be the hottest places to buy if you're looking to make a good return on your UpX investment in these city releases. There's a couple of interesting things about the Dallas and Arlington releases I wanted to cover before I went into the collection predictions. And that is, first of all, and possibly most excitingly, there's now a 10-second cooldown between your property mints. And this is especially exciting for Dallas in particular, I think, because as you'll see during my collection predictions, downtown Dallas has a huge number of very small collections. And in previous collection predictions, I would have said something like, it might not be worth trying to send your explorer there unless you happen to be floating over it already, because by the time you send over to a very small high demand neighborhood, the whole thing's going to be gone already. There's people with lightning fast internet and lightning fast reflexes who are just able to mint the whole thing in like a second, but that is no longer the case. You now have to wait 10 seconds between each mint that you do in the game. So for the first time ever, I'm going to say that it may well be worth sending your explorer over to some of these small downtown neighborhoods, because you've got a much better chance at actually minting one of them, even if you don't happen to be floating over it when the city opens. The second main point that I wanted to make was that, of course, this is a dual city release. You have to choose whether you want to participate in the Dallas release or the Arlington release. Dallas is, of course, the most famous of the two. It is also a much larger city in terms of its geographic spread. So there are some people who like to do the treasure hunting part of the game, where you've got to zip from one side of the city to the other. If you're interested in that part, you might be more interested in Arlington. The prices of the properties are also slightly cheaper in Arlington, but not that much cheaper, to be honest. And Arlington is, of course, where the football stadium is, the American football stadium. So if you're into the NFL part of the game, maybe you're going to be more interested in that. But I'm going to be in Dallas, because I think that's where a lot of the iconic streets, iconic buildings will be, and I think I'll be able to flip those easier for a profit than in Arlington. But that's the interesting thing about these dual releases. You have to think about, why are you going to mint properties and what are you expecting to get out of it? Are you holding them long term because you want to be based in an iconic global city like Dallas? Or do you maybe want to flip them quicker for a smaller profit? Maybe you're better off going in Arlington because it's a smaller city, potentially higher floor prices in the short term. We'll have to see. And of course, I want to give my disclaimer, as I always do, that I have no connection to the Upland team. I don't know what they're going to be picking as their collections for these city releases. I'm just going by what I believe are likely collections based on my analysis of previous city releases and what Upland tends to prioritize when allocating collection status to neighborhoods and streets, but nobody ever knows for sure. I think Nashville was one where a lot of people predicted pretty poorly, including me. But hopefully these predictions will hold up pretty strong for Dallas. And yes, this is just Dallas. I'm going to follow up with an Arlington predictions video in the next couple of days, so keep an eye on the channel for that. If you're not subscribed already to the channel and you'd like to watch that, then please hit the subscribe button. It really does help the channel out. Before I jump into the collection predictions, I want to give a sincere thank you to my executive level channel members, Monopoly Mike and Bad Frog. If you want to become a channel member and get access to some awesome perks like priority responses to messages, access to an exclusive private chat, and one-to-one consultations with myself, consider becoming a channel member. All the information is below the video. And without further ado, let's talk about the Dallas collection predictions. Now, the entire city of Dallas is about 300,000 properties, but only 25,000 are going to be released in this first release. So there's going to be lots of other sort of modular releases after this one. So what I've tried to do is make my collection predictions within this first module that's being released. When further modules are announced, I'll take a look and see if there's any collections which I'm predicting for those. But for now, I'm going to stick with this first module. But it also just so happens that the area that Upland is releasing first also is sort of the heart of downtown Dallas, and most of the collections I think are going to be located within that area anyway. So I also predict that this first Dallas release is going to sell really quickly, because to be honest, all of these properties are actually quite great places to be in Upland, and I think there's going to be a lot of demand for these. What I've just popped up on the screen is downtown Dallas. In Dallas, downtown has actually been split into a whole number of smaller neighborhoods, and that's what I mean when I say that the 10-second mint cooldown is going to be a big deal in Dallas, because instead of just having one big downtown neighborhood, you've got a bunch of really small ones that could realistically disappear in a few seconds previously, but now you might actually have a chance of minting them for yourself. And it's probably not surprising that the majority of neighborhood predictions I have for the city release are kind of contained within this downtown area, and I'm going to sort of talk through a bunch of those now. This top one here in kind of light blue is the Arts District. I think in terms of collections, this might be the second most likely collection in Dallas. It's the largest contiguous arts district in the United States. There are so many museums, theaters, galleries, everything that you could expect in an arts district. This place is absolutely packed with them. Lots of iconic buildings and some fantastic architecture as well. If I zoom in on the Upland map, you can see this area between these two yellow highways here. This is kind of the arts district over here. Unfortunately, the neighborhood boundaries aren't out yet, but you can see there's a sculpture center there, an opera house there. Going back to my colorful map, this larger kind of pinky area is the city center district. And this is sort of the commercial downtown in terms of lots of skyscrapers, commercial buildings, and overall kind of that, commercial heart of Dallas is located within this neighborhood here. Then you are in the city center district. You can see that Commerce Street runs through it, so that's probably a pretty good sign that you're in the right area. There's going to be quite a few large buildings over there. They're probably going to be quite expensive, but if you're looking to set up a meta venture in Dallas, for example, this could be a really good opportunity to do that in a globally recognized commerce neighborhood. Heading over to the west of the Arts District, got the West End Historic District here in kind of an orangey colour. I think this one's got a really good shot at a collection as well. It's primarily known for sites and museums commemorating the memory of JFK, who of course was assassinated on Elm Street within what is now the West End Historic District. If I kind of zoom in along here, you can see Elm Street's going along here. If we zoom in on this bit here, this 6th floor museum is a museum all about the assassination and JFK. And this is Dealey Plaza, where the actual shooting happened. I think it's got a good shot at being a collection. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's got a lot of history to it, so I think there's a good shot there. It's also sometimes known as the birthplace of Dallas, because back in the day, this is where tradespeople came in on the newly established railroad. They set up manufacturing here, and this is in this West End area is where a lot of these first warehouses started popping up, which made up quite a iconic part of the Dallas architecture at the time. And a lot of these old warehouses, they kind of went a little bit neglected for a while, but more recently they've started to be renovated and they're now reutilized as museums and such. So Upland quite like to celebrate areas that have undergone some kind of modern revival, so I think West End Historic District has a good shot in Dallas. Going back to the colourful map again, if you go just south of the city centre district, this long strip here, this is Main Street District, and as you might be able to tell from the name, this is Main Street running straight through the middle here, and that is Elm Street along the top. That is the heart of downtown Dallas, and it's the home of so many iconic buildings. You've got the Magnolia Hotel, you've got the Kirby Building, got the Pegasus Plaza, and all of these amazing tall buildings surrounding that. If I go onto Upland, you can see it. It stands out immediately. You've got Elm Street up here, you've got Commerce Street down here, and you've got Main Street over here. And you just look at all of these marked properties along here. You can't go, like, there's the Magnolia Hotel. You can't go anywhere along here without seeing some really famous structures. I think that this is the most likely neighborhood in Dallas to get collection status, but it is very small. So best of luck, all of you who are competing to get some property in the Main Street District. Now, I don't want to cover neighborhoods that are only in downtown, although I don't think you can go wrong if you hit something in downtown, but the area that's being released in the first batch of Dallas properties actually goes a decent way north of downtown, and there's one neighborhood up here that I wanted to call out. You can see it over here. It's Highland Park. This one's a little bit larger. I fancy this one for a limited collection. And you can tell immediately that this is going to be quite an affluent area. It's not in that grid style. It's got some curved roads. It's got some greenery. It's got a lovely park with a lake in it. It looks like a good place to be. And absolutely it is. Highland Park is generally renowned to be the most affluent neighborhood in Dallas. The property prices in real life range from about $3 million to about $20 million. So this is not going to be a cheap place to mint, but I know that Upland historically quite likes to have a nice affluent neighborhood as one of their collections, and this one absolutely ticks all of the boxes for me. I think it's got a good shot. Once I'm done with downtown, I think I'm going to head out here because people are definitely going to want to have an opportunity to mint some of the lovely houses out here in Highland Park. And I just wanted to give you one bonus neighborhood that's technically not releasing in the first set. It's just a tiny bit east of that first boundary, but I think it's got a really good shot whenever it's released. And that is the neighborhood of Fair Park. I've just zoomed out a little bit. You can see Commerce Street and Elm Street along here where my mouse is. You see this big icon here where it says Cotton Bowl. This is such a cool part of the city. If you manage to get something inside this fairground area, I could absolutely maybe see this being an ultra rare or something like that. I mean, look at all these marked properties within this. You've got museums, you know, you've got the fairgrounds, aquarium. It looks like a kind of place that Upland might like to have a collection to me. It kind of reminds me of Las Vegas's Fremont Street experience. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bonus one. Keep an eye out on Fair Park. Alright, I'm going to head slightly over to the west because it's time to talk about streets. Now, as I said, I don't think you can go wrong with downtown Dallas, and a bunch of these streets are going to be located around there. The first one I want to talk about is Elm Street. I kind of mentioned it earlier. It's one of the streets which borders Main Street. Absolutely runs through the heart of downtown Dallas, and it is renowned as a popular spot for nightlife. Look at all these restaurants along here. And as I mentioned earlier, it was the street where JFK was assassinated. Is that going to help or hinder its status as a collection? I'm not 100% sure. But it's definitely worth noting. And then, of course, just below it, Main Street. I feel like it's almost a guarantee that either Main Street or the Main Street district is going to make it as a collection. Probably not both, but you never know. I don't even know if this street needs any more introduction than its name. It is truly a main street. It's the heart of the city. It has the architecture and the services to match. It's got a whole district named after it. So make of that what you will. If you can get something on Main Street, you're going to be absolutely laughing. Now if I scroll just a little bit north of Elm Street and Main Street and I go to the other side here of the Woodall-Rogers Freeway, you have McKinney Avenue coming in at a funky angle here. This one popped up in my research for a similar reason to Elm Street, but it's even more renowned for like high-end nightlife, some real nice upscale restaurants and shopping. We know that Upland love to make a collection of commercial streets where they can, and they quite like the high-end stuff as well. So McKinney Avenue combines both of those things. Look at this concentration of high-end restaurants over here on McKinney Avenue. That is really quite special. And you've got the Magnolia Theatre here as well. What a great spot. I've just zoomed out a bit so you can kind of see where this next one is located. You can see downtown Dallas over here where my mouse is circling. This is Highland Park up here. And between the two, you've got a street called Swiss Avenue. I think people are sleeping on this one. First of all, part of this runs through its own historic district. And that's because the guy who originally owned this land in the early 20th century placed some really interesting restrictions on how people can build their houses over here. All the houses on Swiss Street had to be at least 2 stories high. They had to all face the street, so no facing back alleys. They all had to have brick on the exterior, and they all had to have a construction cost of at least $10,000, which in the early 20th century was quite a lot of money. And that means that on Swiss Street, you have a huge number of fantastic looking grand houses designed by renowned architects. Plus, it was the first paved street in Dallas. That's a lot going for it. It's not very long at all. I haven't seen people talking about this one very much. I think this is my #1 contender for an ultra rare. I almost regret saying this one because I've barely seen anyone talking about it, but Swiss Avenue, give it a look. The houses out here are going to be quite expensive, but yeah, it's going to be quite special, I think, if you manage to grab something on there. And my final street prediction, if you go just a little bit northwest of Swiss Avenue, you find North Henderson Avenue. This popped up in my research as another great spot for award-winning restaurants, bars. You can sort of see around here, especially, there's concentrated quite a few bars and stuff over here near the North Central Expressway. It's a good length. I think it could be an exclusive collection. Certainly worth a gamble in my opinion. So that's about it for my predictions for the first round of property releases in Dallas, coming in just a few days' time. As mentioned before, please stay subscribed to the channel if you want to see my Arlington predictions or my predictions for further city expansion releases on top of this first Dallas release. I can't wait to hear what you guys were able to grab. Before I end the video, I want to thank my executive and director level channel members, Monopoly Mike, Bad Frog, Tushar Zing, Rasmus Bro, and HH Toyboy. Thank you very, very much for the support. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.